So thank you to Walmart. In addition to myself, we're going to have speakers Allison Blackwell, also from WGU, David Morales, also from WGU, and Wayne Skipper from Concentric Sky. So we're all going to be here sort of talking you through the Open Skills Management tool today. Let's see, here's our agenda. Talk to you a little bit about open source, OSMIT, how to access OSMIT. And as Christian mentioned, we do hope to have a lot of time at the end for Q&A. So busy agenda today. And also, as Christian mentioned, just a reminder before we dive into the OSMIT content, we do have our Skills Collaborative project that has kicked off. Applications are open. So if you would like to work on rich skills descriptor library development, think about implementation projects, or even just working with OSMIT and the implementation of OSMIT in your organization. These are all potential collaborative projects that you can participate in. The deadline is November 1st. So if you do need help or support, Learning Economy Forum is available to help with that, answer questions about the application process to make sure that you guys are all set up for success. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that or think about a project or people that you might want to partner on with a project, please reach out. I think it's a great opportunity to get involved. Just as a quick little highlight, here's the dates for the collaborative. As mentioned, applications are due in November. We will begin to work with our selected projects in December with a formal kickoff starting in January. Ideally, we'll have a completion in March where we'll be able to present and report out our findings and share best practices with the community. All right. And hopefully you guys are all here because you believe in the value of skills and particularly open skills. So the Open Skills Network is a coalition of employers, education providers, military, workforce development, state and federal government that is really committed to advancing skills-based education and hiring. We do believe that through this work, we will be able to reduce inequity in terms of both hiring and education opportunities. And as I mentioned, like the real key value of this network is open, and that we are doing this in a way that we hope to be able to support accessible, machined, actionable skills and libraries by really creating a community that's leveraging this common syntax across the work that's being done with skills to really unlock the ecosystem. So with that, I am going to pass this to our next speaker, who is Wayne, to talk to us a little bit about why open skills.
Thanks, Sarah, and I appreciate everyone's time today joining us in this exciting subject matter. Why open skills? I would say the short answer to that question is really because it allows us to achieve the goals that we've laid out for the network, right? So this is the how. There are a lot of organizations that are thinking about skills that talk about the what. Our focus is actually moving that from a decision collectively to think about skills as a way of denominating achievement to actually making that possible and moving that ball forward at scale. So that's really what we're trying to do. And as Sarah said, we're doing that in an open way because we believe that that is fundamental to the sort of future that we wish to create, which is something that is interoperable, which is something that is independent of any particular technology or vendor or organization. So really our focus is where the rubber meets the road. How do you actually make use of skills in your organization and demonstrate value to your stakeholders by using skills alignment in practice? And one of the key reasons that openness is important is because of this idea of intentional design, which is the way that we allow ourselves to keep track of important things such as equity, right? A lot of organizations have done preliminary machine learning analyses of thousands or millions of job postings and thousands of syllabi, and you see the word communication appear in each set of documents, and you can assume, well, those must be the same. But clearly those are not the same, because the word communication is insufficient by itself to connotate the meaning of what we're talking about when we're talking about an achievement. So we have to further define that. But the danger of just relying on existing definitions of things like communication is that we have fundamental inequity built into the way that we use language. And it's hard for us to see that because we're the fish that swims in the water, right? There are inherent biases that as we discover them, we might wish to change. We want to intentionally design language so that it achieves more equitable outcomes for people. So having intentional design around the definition of a skill gives us an access point to do that. If all we're doing is deriving, skills definitions from existing bodies of language and using machine learning to process those, we lose the ability to analyze those systems for bias, and we don't have a place to correct anything that we might find. So the openness of our approach here is key to this idea that our aim is a future with more equitable outcomes for everyone. I think most of us in the education space share that desire for improved equitable outcomes. This gives you a way to be very intentional about how you design your skills frameworks and your skills libraries, and also to maintain access in the future. So you're not stuck with that definition if you find you need to amend it later. Another key factor of doing this in an open way is that it facilitates, as I mentioned, this vendor independent idea of skills-based connections. And we do this using open standards. And so open skills are not a new concept. Open skills are part of an arc of technology that really began with the definition of open badges 2.0 back in 2014. And when Concentric Sky was doing that work with Mozilla and MacArthur, we realized the need not just for a standard that would allow us to create a portable, verifiable micro-credential, commonly called digital badges, but that we also needed a way to relate those to each other so that we could understand different grain sizes of achievement and how those might cross various boundaries. And so we wrote another standard called Open Pathways to achieve that. Open Skills is the next step in that journey. Open Skills provide Rosetta Stones by which we can understand what is meant by achievement as the record of achievement moves from one setting to another. And the goal of this is to reduce friction without creating dependence on any one vendor or any one piece of technology. And we think of this as essential for achieving long-term value for the credentials and the education outcomes. We don't want anyone to be locked into a walled garden, right? We want maximum portability, maximum life cycle for the credentials, transcripts, records that we issue. And so this is why vendor independence and open standards are so important. We think that one of the main things that we'll see out of this is the ability to help employers and educators speak a common language. But that needs to be an open language, right? We need to be able to analyze it. We need to be able to make improvements to it. We need to be able to describe the degree of similarity that might exist between two very similar uses of a piece of language. And so what we're doing with Osmit is creating the system to make it easy to manage those concepts and work with those together. Ideally, again, to reduce friction as we try to align learning outcomes with workforce opportunity. We, as a collective group of people working in the OSN, represent a broad array of organizations working on numerous open standards that span the education and the workforce context. And so one of the benefits of working with OSN is that we are taking into account the major interoperability standards, things that are happening at IMS Global, W3C, HR Open, et cetera, and making sure that we're weaving these together into a system that will actually work. So breaking down the silos of standards and actually making systems that will be easy for you to accomplish the goals that we share, where the technology is not in the way. The goal is to make the technology as easy to use as possible. And so Osmit has been integrated into Badger. Badger, of course, is a system that implements Open Badges 2.0 and Open Pathways. Open skills have always been on the roadmap, and I'm happy to announce today that Badger and Osmit are already integrated. So if you are interested in using the Osmit tool to create open skills libraries. You can issue micro credentials against those skills today. And we're aiming for future integrations with HRIS systems and ATS systems, really to have these libraries act as the Rosetta Stone so that people can understand, again, achievement and what is meant by that achievement, so they can analyze evidence in context as it moves throughout the ecosystem with this overall goal of reducing friction and creating long-term value. And where the rubber really meets the road is with this concept of a rich skill descriptor, which is where we get down into the weeds of how you're doing your intentional design. And with that, I'll pass it over to Allison to tell us a little bit more about RSDs.
Thanks, Wayne. So as he said, the rich skill descriptor is the core of our open skills conversation. When we talk about skills at the Open Skills Network, we mean RSD, rich skill descriptor. You'll hear it out of our mouths, probably each of us several times a day as we talk about skills and the skills ecosystem that we're trying to create. And it really is all about interoperability and creating that common language that Wayne referenced that we can all speak. So the rich skill descriptor is a standard language for articulating skills data as a pretty skills package. A skill at the heart of it is the skill statement, which allows any user of that skill to understand how that skill is performed within a given context, and then supported by all of the other data that you see here aligned to that skill statement. So you'll see occupational data, intelligent labor market data to support how that skill is used within the industry right now, standards or certifications that reference that skill, keywords that allow for searchability of that skill. And it's a package that travels together, allows us to speak that language, and allows systems to be able to use that machine readable skills data to make meaning out of it. And so on our journey to implement skills in a common way, the rich skill descriptor is the way that we're able to go about doing that. If you are interested more in rich skill descriptor as a data standard, or to look at recipes of how that rich skill descriptor schema can be used, I will refer you to this rsd.openskillsnetwork.org so that you can take a deeper dive into what that means. If talking about data standards and recipes for use is not your thing, the way that we went about making this accessible to you is through the development of the Open Skills Management Tool, or OSMIT, as we all lovingly refer to it. And what OSMIT enables us to do is to take this idea of the rich skill descriptor and to provide anyone with a way to begin authoring rich skill descriptors and to make meaning of skills. So I'll take you from this and we'll dive a little bit into OSMIT and the functionality behind it. You can move this forward, Christian. Awesome. Thank you. So the Open Skills Management Tool was developed as the first project of the OSN based on the WGU use case. And what we wanted to do was to be able to take this idea that we had of the rich skill descriptor and create a tool that enables anyone through a beautiful user interface, which I'll give you a snapshot of in just a moment, to be able to author these rich skill descriptors and publish them for use across all of the systems that you've heard come out of our mouths so far today, whether that's curriculum management systems or HRIS systems, systems like Badger that allow you to make digital credentials, and more, to take that RSD and to align it to those credentials so that we can begin to see how users, how learners, how employees are gathering up these skills, and to provide them with a way to have meaning with their skills and to be able to communicate their skills journey. So the OSMIT, it's a free open source tool, which we'll be talking a little bit more about in a minute, to facilitate production of these RSD libraries. And the idea is that they are published and open and available for use and for sharing. That they would be that Rosetta Stone that allows us to make meaning. And these libraries can be organized in any number of ways based on how the Open Skills Management Tool is used to enable and support that meaning. It's able to be branded, white labeled to support your organization and to fit seamlessly into existing technology infrastructures. And what we hope to continue to do, as Wayne mentioned, with these integrations is to support ways for existing programs or curricula job descriptions, to use the open libraries to communicate in that shared way. So we're starting to see some of those integrations come to life already, like with the Badger integration. WGU has also been able to integrate with our current platforms to make meaning out of skills as well, aligning to our curriculum. And we hope that as others adopt the Osmit tool, that they'll be able to see that same meaning, and we'll begin to see the true power that can come from the RSD structure and from the Osmit tool itself. So we can move forward. So the core capabilities of the Osmit are quite simple, and I'll say this is version 1. And version 1 was developed, as I said, in partnership with WGU and Concentric Sky to simply do these 4 things. One is that we wanted to provide a way to author and edit rich skill descriptors. We knew that when we started this conversation that one of the main problems is that skills data was everywhere. PDFs, on paper, sitting on your desk, on websites. And the first thing that we wanted to do was to be able to take that existing skills data, provide a system where it could be authored and enhanced for use and made even more meaningful with these metadata tags that we've enabled within the tool, like adding things like job descriptions, like data standard alignment information, like keywords for searchability, like the ability to categorize skills by theme, all based, as I said, in that contextualized skill statement that allows the skill to have meaning beyond just a keyword. The second functionality, as I mentioned, is being able to take those existing data, those flat skill sets, and to batch import them. So if you don't want to author individual skills from scratch in the tool, which you're able to do, you can take those flat skill sets and batch import them via CSV file into the tool. There's a template provided there for any user, and it's a really seamless experience. It has some awesome conveniences in it to help identify duplicates within an individual skills library, so that if you're worried as you're bringing your data in, if it will be duplicated or replicated in your system, there are checks and balances in place to help provide that level of information. It provides ways to organize that skills data, as I said, for use. So it could be thematically. If you're an institution like WGU, you might be organizing libraries around certain professions or around programs, and similar to any other user, seamless ways to organize skills for use. And then one of the most important functionalities, of course, is the ability to publish those. And publishing those rich skill descriptors or libraries of rich skill descriptors makes them discoverable and usable. So we can make use of them in our digital asset management systems, our curriculum management systems, our HRIS systems, and access them and use them and share them. And so really seamless to start. And the idea is that we'll start here with this core capabilities. And then as Osmit is used, as the open source community continues to grow and flourish, that the tool will evolve based on the needs that the community has. So just a snapshot of what that beautiful user interface looks like. You can see here that this version of the Open Skills Management tool is white labeled for WGU. It is customizable in color and in theme with logos. Even the title, you could change it to be my very own super cool skills tool, if that's what your heart desired. That's available to you. You can see here that when you log into Osmit, that you'll view your full skills library, your RSD library here in this sample. And there's 413 RSDs. I think WGU has now well over 13,000 RSDs in our library. And here you're able to act on one or more RSDs. Really important functionality, of course, when you have libraries of any size, is the ability to search on it. So we want to enable quick and easy search of RSDs and collections, ability to advanced search on any of the data fields that you've heard come out of my mouth today, and probably more. And so simple ways to create RSDs and collections, batch import, and navigate between all of those. So this is a quick look, and if you are interested in seeing more of the functionality that the tool has to offer, we're happy to direct you to a full demo of the Open Skills Management tool as well. And I will now pass it off to WGU's CIO and VP of Technology, David Morales, who will talk to us about why open source with the Open Skills Management tool.
Hey, thank you, Allison. Appreciate that. So we just heard from Allison a few minutes ago that the Open Scale Management tool is an open source tool. And one of the things that I keep hearing a lot from a lot of people is like, what do you mean with open source? What is that? Or how are we going to consume this? So what he means, what it transpires to be, is that this is a technology, a piece of software that will enable you to create or those descriptors, those RSDs that Allison just explained it to us. And it's going to be free. There's no license fee for it. You're going to be able to download it. You're going to be able to install it within your own servers, running within your on-prem. Your technology teams can actually be running it. It doesn't have to be run by an external company. But it also means that we can accept help from anybody who feels like, hey, there's this feature, there's this other component that I think that we can enrich this tool to make it better for the entire community. So we are opening the actual code that was created by WU and Concentric Sky. We came together and putting this tool, and now we're opening the code for everyone to come in and see it, play with it, and improve it. So we're looking specifically for three things. Number one, we're looking for the collaboration. We at WU and also with Concentric Sky, we believe that technical solutions should be there to help every single one of us. And we're all looking for how can we all advance education and opportunities. In this specific case, how can we advance the skills and the usability of such skills and the descriptions and attaching them to the right individuals. So we believe technology can help us and we can build it together. So we're looking for collaboration across multiple institutions, multiple employers out there, multiple companies out there to make this tool even better. We're also looking for adoption. We believe that by completely removing any type of licenses, fees that are attached to the consumption of this tool will enable adoption of this tool, and more people will start utilizing the rich skills descriptors for all of us to have that standard denomination of skills and what do they mean as currency for consumption of employees and employers. But we're also thinking about transparency. We are open. We feel like, hey, listen, this technology may not be perfect, but we feel strong about what it brings to the table and how it actually delivers it. So we're bringing that transparency in order for us to accelerate the innovation that we feel that is so needed in our industry. We feel that there's so many bright individuals out there, technically inclined, that want to continue to help us build this future. So open source means come in, help us build this new tool, structure it in a way that everybody can consume it and consume it better with the right features, and deliver it for free consumption. There may be some, I want to make sure that I highlight this, there may be some expenditure from your part if you're going to deploy it in a server inside your institution, right? That's going to be part of your, sorry, of your expenditure. But the software itself, there's no license fee. It's completely free. So with that said, I'm now going to give it back to you, Allison.
Thank you. So open source is really at the heart of this OSMIT project, as David so well articulated. But when we start talking about hosting OSMIT and servers, we don't want you to feel like it's a barrier to your success with open skills or with authoring open skills or being able to participate in the open skills ecosystem. And so we've created different pathways for you to get involved with OSMIT. The first, of course, is for those of you who are advanced in your technology and that you have the support or you have the resources to support you in standing up and hosting your own OSMIT instance. And so if you see these words like MySQL, Redis, Elasticache, and Okta, and you think, yep, absolutely, we can do that, and that's something that's of interest to you, there's a path for you. If you are more intermediate in your interest and you think, you know, I really do want to experiment. I see that user interface. It looks like something that I could make use of. I'm not quite sure I'm ready to host, but I definitely want to get involved and experiment with creating rich skill descriptors and creating collections of those rich skill descriptors for use, we'll have a path for you. And if you're not quite ready, but your interest is piqued and you want to learn more, but hosting Osmit sounds quite daunting and you need to learn more about that, we have a path for you as well. And so if you are an advanced or intermediate user or advanced or intermediate interest in Osmit, please email us at opensource@wgu.edu. Our intention in the near future is to be able to provide direct access to our open source repo that has the Osmit code base there for exploration. Right now, we're asking that you do email us and we'll give access on a based on the email that you provide to us and get you into that open source repo that is available for you to start exploring and experimenting with if you're at that advanced level and comfortable with it. If you are intermediate level here and you're not quite sure you're ready to host, but you want to explore, again, please email the team at opensource@wgu.edu and we're happy to help suss out what level you're at. We can get you access to that repo so you can start to explore it, and the team will work with you to see what the options are for hosting there for you so that you can play around with it. And if you're not quite ready to host, but you want to learn more, as always, please access our website at openskillsnetwork.org. There's information there for you about rich skill descriptors, about the open skills management tool, the demo that Allison really nicely dropped into the chat for us. Please take a look at those and learn more about it. Reach out to us at information@openskillsnetwork.org, and we're happy to continue the conversation with you there. So all that to say, we want you all to feel comfortable participating in this ecosystem when it comes to the open skills management tool so that we can create meaning together. A principle for me, especially when we talk about this open skills work and moving it forward, is that WGU is heavily involved in the open skills network, of course, and you've heard from several of us that work for WGU here today. WGU alone cannot maintain, support this ecosystem. It truly has to be a collaborative ecosystem of all of us coming together to further skills. And so we hope that you feel well invited to participate, to join the OSN. I think I'm kicking it back over to Sarah DeMark, but I just want to put in my own personal plug that we want you involved. We want you to interface with the Open Skills Management tool, and we want your contribution. So please do reach out. And over you to Sarah to wrap us up.
Thanks, Allison. I think you covered it. I appreciate it. I think there's a lot of opportunities to get involved, a lot of opportunities to roll up your sleeves and dive into Osmit. And with that, I think that's our last slide, other than just a reminder to post any questions you might have in the chat. I do see that there's some active conversations going on there, and thank you to some of you that been answering them in real time as well. But let's make sure we get to any questions that maybe we have not answered yet. So Christian, I believe you've been monitoring things. What's unanswered at this point?
We have a couple questions have been answered in the chat, but I'd like to throw them to the panel just to kind of expound on them a little further. The first one is from Michael Barber. Do you have any instructional videos, or will you be hosting more technical webinars to demonstrate how to do some of these integrations? For example, is there something I could use to follow along to integrate these things into Badger or in some other capacity?
Thanks, Christian, and happy to continue on my comments from the chat there. Yes, we will have some references and some examples for those that want to see how to integrate Osmit and Badger. We'll be doing that work in a number of different contexts, and happy to have anyone reach out directly to me that is interested in seeing the Badger side of that, so we can set up some time to discuss that. It will also be covered in the technical working group that OSN has on an ongoing basis, and you can find more about that working group at openskillsnetwork.org.
And I'll just add that as we begin to really build out our open source community, our goal is to provide as much support as needed, especially as questions arise. So, you know, live chat, not live chat. Wow, I'm committing myself way more than I have bandwidth for, right? But community support and chat, especially through the open source repo, if that's something that you're interested in gaining access to. Other webinars where we provide more technical support or resources such as videos. If you have any that are of interest to you, please pop them in the chat, and we'll continue to provide support and avenues for communication as we continue to build out that open source community.
Perfect. This next one is from Steve, and he asks, is there a sandbox implementation where people can kind of try out Osmit and kind of experiment with it before they might stand one up on their own? Or would the answer just be that they need to stand it up on their own and play from that direction?
I'd say possibly yes to both. If you have interest in playing around in a sandbox environment, but you don't want to commit to standing up your own sandbox to play in, please reach out to us in the email and we'll discuss options with you for doing that.
Perfect. This one's from Michael J, and he asks, who's offering the open license? WGU, OSN, Concentric Sky, someone else?
David, did you want to?
Yes,
Take that
sorry,
one?
can you repeat that question? I'm
Absolutely.
having connection issues. My apologies.
Oh, so sorry. Who is offering the open license? Is that WGU or OSN or Concentric Sky or someone else?
Do we mean by open license, do we mean open source? Because we are using the Apache license, which is an open source license. It's not open license. Gmail is open license, but this is an open source project, which means you actually get the code and you download it and you install it yourself. And it is being offered by WGU. WGU is currently the owner of the code. But as soon as we actually go out there, we're going to open up a big event and we're going to do this as an open source part of a consortium of Apache. At that time, it's just going to be another Apache project that we're deploying.
Perfect. Thank you. And I would also direct people to the OSN website. We do have an Osmit page now, and more of this information is located there as well. This next question is from Christiane, and she's wondering about the interoperability with learning management systems, and as well as wondering about the ability for the system to speak to assessment management systems. Any thoughts, panel?
I might take an initial stab at that. So, the idea with open skills is that you have a URL, so a web address that has information about that skill. So you can see a human readable sort of HTML representation in a web page, or you can get a machine readable form in JSON of the same piece of information. So it's not so much Osmit talking to other things as other things pointing to Osmit to sort of tag content. So in a curriculum management system, if you're trying to say create a skill aligned student learning outcome, what you would do is you would point to the Osmit URL for the skill you're trying to tag that outcome with. So that's the direction of the flow. And I would say the same thing about learning management systems, although those systems tend to derive their skills and other things from either an SIS or a curriculum management system. So I think that's really where the actual connection would be. But open skills are really just URLs you can point to. And I think in many cases that's going to take the form of an alignment in the open badges, open pathways sense, or as a tag. Happy to go into that further if that's not clear.
Perfect. So we've had a couple questions coming in via email and chat where some have wondered about if they're beginners, how do they learn the tool? What is the best way to begin digesting how to move into this space and use this tool and start to understand it? Any thoughts, panel?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a great opportunity if you're interested in skills work and you have a project with skills within your organization is to apply to participate in the, what do we call it now? Skills collaborative. I think I got it. Participate in the
Yes.
Skills Collaborative. There were dates shared earlier on in the slide deck and information about how to apply. I think that's an awesome way to get involved, especially if you have skills that you're working with already, but you don't have a tool or a shared skills language for communicating them. Apply, participate. We'll have an OSMIT available for you to use in that project, so you don't need to be able to stand up your own OSMIT to participate. And it would be a great opportunity to collaborate with your peers and to test out what that would look like to actually use OSMIT for the work that's happening within your organization. Otherwise, reach out to us if you don't feel like the Skills Collaborative is the right place for you to get started. Reach out to us at the open source email address, and we'll be happy to discuss options with you there.
And a follow-up question from Christiane. She's wondering, in terms of hosting, how many IT staff members would you say it would take to host the system? I mean, what are the kind of the technical sides of it?
Yeah. Were you going to say something, Allison?
Oh, you can start if you want, Wayne.
Okay, yeah, I'll start. So I would say the question is maybe not full-time staff members, but how many person hours it might take. And the system is designed such that it should be a minimal impact, right? So it's release containerized for those that are familiar with that. So you should just be able to drop it in place with minimal need for setup and configuration. And same with any updates that come out. So it's not completely negligible, but we've taken as many steps as we can to make it super easy for anybody to set up if you have an environment like AWS or something like that available.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you have an in-house IT team, maybe a good place to start would be to show them the open source repo and have them take a look at the README documentation and at the code and see what their response would be and how they would feel about the type of bandwidth that they would need to be able to start working with that project. But as Wayne said, the idea is that it wouldn't take so much work, but it will take hours to do that, man hours to do that, or woman hours to do that, person hours, I should say. And so definitely, if you have the support within your organization, people who do this type of work, get them involved in the repo and let them see what they think.
Perfect. And Christian also has another question, and this is great. I mean, fire away. Is there a way to export the skills data for data visualization and custom reports? What are some of the ways in which OSMIT can be used in those capacities, or even some of the future enhancements that might be possible down the road?
Yes, so right now, built into the tool as a feature is the ability to, once RSDs and collections of RSDs are published, there's opportunity to download any of that data as a CSV file. There's also the ability to copy the JSON code for use. So there's not any direct visualization support built into the tool at this time. Could be an enhancement for the future if any of our friends in our open source community want to work on that. But we do have at least the opportunity built in to pull that skills data out of the tool and to make use of it however your organization would need to do that.
Perfect. And we've had another question come in via email too, which is great. I'm kind of sourcing them from two different angles here. But this person asks, what's the best approach to find other OSN members who may want to partner on a skills collaboration project? I'm feeling alone. Please help. Any thoughts, panel?
I would say email us at the address here, info@openskillsnetwork.org, and just let us know. And if there are fellow peers on the call who are feeling the same way, maybe we can do a little matchmaking to support you. But if you want to participate and you don't know who you could join up with, just let us know. And yeah, one of my peers put in the chat that we need an OSN Tinder. So we'll help you swipe right on a partnership. If you need support, just let us know. We're happy to help facilitate that.
I would also add that I've seen in the chat a couple members from LEF who will be supporting the collaboration projects. And I know that they are eager to help and get people connected and build some amazing partnerships too. So I invite them, wave your hand in the chat and let people see you again, but I know they're there and they're fabulous people. We've got another question here. This one is from Robert. You mentioned that WGU has thousands of RSDs. However, how many RSDs are part of Osmit that we can leverage?
I can come off mute and take that one. This is Casey from WGU. So we are planning to roll out our own collections to be available in January, which will be very exciting for anyone who is interested in participating in one of the collaborative projects. If it's in a sector for which we are publishing the RSDs, they'll be available for use. And we are planning to announce what those collections will be and the scope and focus of the sectors next month.
Thank you, Casey. Appreciate that. This next question is from Stephanie. Is there an example or use case that you can share of two organizations using the skills data between them? For example, a university and an employer.
I can jump in. So we had a very successful spring pilot series that concluded, I think it was in June. I think if you look at the OSN website, there's a link to the YouTube channel where we're hosting videos of previous events. I think you'll be able to find it there. That really showcase all of the different pilots that were ongoing in the spring. There were 14 different groups, most of which had connections and partnerships of what we were calling skills producers and skills consumers. So that university employer sort of connection piece there. So if you look at some of the information about our spring pilot series, you'll see a lot of great examples of education providers and employers coming together to create a common library of skills. And that was just as a starting point. We're hoping to see more of that in our fall collaborative series as well.
Perfect. And with that, I'd just like to offer the panel just a closing moment here to offer any final thoughts on Osmit and everything that's been discussed today and the questions that you all have answered. So we'll start with Allison and Wayne, and then move to David and wrap up with Sarah. Any final thoughts, please?
I would say that this is a team effort. All of us in the world of education and employment and training are really trying to improve outcomes for all stakeholders. So we welcome your help. We welcome your input. Please get involved in our working groups. Please contribute code. Please give us feedback on the interface. I think we all want to work together to make it better. So that'd be my first ask is, join with us if you think this work is valuable. I would also want to just briefly touch on the question Rajinder has asked here, which is the value of a digital credential or really anything that links out to Osmit. The short answer to that is that you get a URL that gives you the ability to customize your message about a skill, right? So you can talk about the skill, how you assess it. You can embed labor market information in your own branded way, right? That is specific to the market you serve, which may not be served by other systems that are out there. So I'll just touch on that. Happy to chat with you further about that, Rajinder, if you have further questions. And thanks everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, my closing thought would be don't let conversations about hosting Osmit or servers or AWS accounts deter you from participation with the tool. We want to make sure that we create pathways for each of you to participate and to feel like you can not only interact with RSDs, author your own, use those that have been opened up for you to use, but to also participate with the Open Skills Management tool in whatever ways we can provide for you to do that. So wherever you're at in your journey, there is a way for you to get involved. So please do reach out.
I would definitely echo Allison's words. Please do not let any type of technology stop you from implementing this model. We feel strong about the model we're suggesting and that we're bringing to your attention. We feel that it is definitely the future for the technology in education, and we want to continue to work together. It's a collaboration effort.
Yeah, and this is phase one, right? We're going to continue to iterate and evolve, and your feedback and use of the tool will help us continue to make sure that we are reducing and eliminating any barriers to entry that organizations might feel. So yeah, your involvement in this community will help us grow the community as well. So again, I just want to thank you and thank everybody for attending. Thank you to our panelists. I appreciate you sharing the exciting news about our Open Skills Management tool being released to the wild. So that's a really exciting development, and I know the team has worked really hard to get us here. So please participate in a pilot, ask questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help you, and we're here to help the adoption and the use of open skills in a variety of different organizations. So please don't hesitate, and thank you, and stay tuned for our showcase next month. You'll see a use case of how all of these components are coming together with the use of open skills, all the way through the use of a learner-owned achievement wallet. This was all done through, I think, a great example of a partnership of an employer and an educational institution and a workforce development initiative. So it's a great example of how these organizations and industries are coming together to solve a real need in Indiana. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for coming. And yeah, we look forward to hearing more. All right. Thanks. Bye, everyone.